90 minutes are gone, the clock is dead, and one of the best teams on the planet walks off having taken 27 shots and scored absolutely nothing. Spain hammered the door for an hour and a half. Cape Verde slammed it shut. The internet calls it a miracle, the upset of the cup. But here is the question nobody wants to ask out loud. Was it actually a miracle? Or just a coin, flipped 100 times, that finally landed the right way up? Because there is a difference between a shock and a fluke, and the numbers know it. This World Cup has been a bloodbath for the favourites. Cape Verde held Spain. Australia dismantled Turkey. Qatar stole a point from Switzerland in the dying seconds. New Zealand led Iran twice. Everyone got labelled the same way. Giant killing, romance, the magic of the cup. But labels lie. Some were teams genuinely punching up and landing the blow. Others were a side battered for 90 minutes, surviving on luck alone. Identical on the scoreboard, nothing alike underneath. So tonight we run the test. We take every upset, strip out the emotion, and ask one question of each. Real or rescued? Here is the tool. Expected goals or XG. Forget the name. All it does is measure the quality of the chances a team creates. A tap-in from 2 yards is worth almost a full goal. A punt from 40 yards, almost nothing. Add them up, the goals an average team would have scored. So XG cuts through the noise. It ignores the final score and the heroics. It tells you who actually deserved to win before luck got a vote. Keep that number in your head. We are about to point it at every shock on the list. So let us start with the famous one. Cape Verde, 0. Spain, 0. And the moment you turn the lights on, it stops looking like a contest. Spain's expected goals for the match, 2.29. Cape Verde's, 0.30. Read that again. Spain created roughly 2 1/3 clear goals worth of chances. Cape Verde, less than 1/3 of one. 74% possession, 734 passes. 27 shots, 7 on target. By every measure that matters, Spain didn't draw this game. They won it comfortably on a scoreboard that simply refused to update. So how did Cape Verde escape with a point? One man, a 40-year-old goalkeeper called Vozinha. 7 saves. He denied Oyarzabal, he denied Laporte, he denied Ferran Torres, who then rattled the crossbar with the goal at his mercy. This wasn't a defensive masterclass or a plan to strangle Spain. It was a wall in gloves, having the greatest night of his life, while the woodwork did the rest. Strip away one goalkeeper and an inch of paint on the bar, and this is a routine Spain win. The definition of a smash and grab. Cape Verde didn't beat Spain. They survived Spain. Now meet the purest fluke on the entire list. Qatar against Switzerland. The Swiss took 26 shots, the most they have ever managed in a single World Cup match. They pinned Qatar in their own box for the better part of an hour, and then, in the 4th minute of stoppage time, Switzerland's own Miro Muheim turned the ball into his own net. Qatar's first ever World Cup point arrived not from a shot, not from a chance, but from an opponent's mistake in the 94th minute. No skill to measure, no plan, no hero, just the cruelest roll of the dice in football. Next, New Zealand against Iran. On paper, a fairy tale, the 85th ranked side in the world, taking the lead not once, but twice through an Elijah Just brace. But watch the shape of the match. Iran controlled long, suffocating spells. New Zealand sat deep and struck on the rare moments they broke free. A snatch and run, executed perfectly. And then the truth arrived in the very next game. New Zealand lost 3-1 to Egypt, the gap laid bare. The Iran draw wasn't a side rising, it was a lucky high point on a graph already heading back down. But here is where the story turns. Not every Cape Verde result was a survival act. 6 days after the Spain game, they drew 2-2 with Uruguay, and this one is different. Yes, Uruguay's expected goals were higher, around 2.34, but Cape Verde's number jumped 2 to 0.86, nearly triple what they managed against Spain, and the goals were real. Kevin Pina struck a free kick from 32 meters out, their first ever at a World Cup and the longest range goal of the tournament. Then Helio Varela equalized in the 62nd minute. They didn't defend, they created. And now the result the algorithm respects the most. Australia 2, Türkiye 0. Türkiye came in as a fashionable dark horse, everyone fawning over the teenage genius Arda Güler, and Australia simply took them apart. Iran Kunda finished in the 27th minute. Metcalf doubled it in the 75th, pouncing on a turnover in midfield. Their debutant goalkeeper, Patrick Beach, made 8 saves. This wasn't a team hanging on. This was defensive solidity plus clinical transition, the recipe a good side uses to beat a better rated one. Türkiye had the ball and the reputation. Australia had the plan and the goals. So already the neat little word upset is falling apart in our hands. 4 results, 4 completely different stories. Qatar was a coin landing on its edge in the last seconds. New Zealand was a snatch and run before reality returned. Cape Verde against Spain was one goalkeeper defying the gods. But Cape Verde against Uruguay and Australia over Türkiye was something else. Those were earned. Real chances, real goals, real plans. So if the famous result was the luckiest and the quiet ones the real ones, that raises a bigger question. Is this just chance stacking up, or is something structural happening underneath? Here is the part the highlight reels miss. This is the first 48-team World Cup, and the minnows are not minnows anymore. The Cape Verde squad is stuffed with players who earn their living in Europe's top leagues. They face Spain with zero intimidation because half of them face Spanish internationals every weekend. The gap that used to make these games a formality has narrowed to a sliver. Add the conditions. North American heat, brutal travel, 157 minutes of hydration, breaks across 24 games, all blunting the teams who want the ball. The favourites are tired, the underdogs fearless, and the referees are quietly rewriting the script too. Fouls are down to roughly 24.4 per game, from 27.7 in 2022. They let these matches flow, fewer stoppages for favourites, more chaos for underdogs. Now look at the output. The group stage is averaging 3.12 goals a game, the highest of any recent World Cup, up from 2.56 in 2022. Only 1-0 in the first 24 matches. The big teams are not in control. The whole environment is tilted toward the shock, which brings us to the catch, the part that should make every favourite nervous. On June the 15th, all 4 matches that day ended in a draw. 4 draws on a single World Cup day. That had not happened since 1958, 68 years ago. You can wave it away as a coincidence. But the numbers force you to admit, even the lucky results fire on top of a system genuinely closing the gap. A fluke needs fertile ground. Vozinha needed Cape Verde to be in the game at all. The luck is real, but it lands on something more real. So here is the verdict, the one we promised at the very start. The most famous upset of this tournament, Cape Verde holding Spain, is also the luckiest of the entire lot. 27 shots, 1 transcendent goalkeeper, a crossbar, and a final score that flattered a team thoroughly outplayed. It finishes lower than you think, because the legend was survival, not superiority. At the other end sits Australia, 2-0 over Türkiye, the most legitimate result on the board, a genuinely better performance from the weaker side. The truth was hiding in the gap between scoreboard and XG all along. So let us rank them, lucky to legit. Most fluke of all, Qatar's last gasp own goal against Switzerland. Pure variance, no skill involved. Just above it, Cape Verde 0-0 Spain, 1 goalkeeper defying 2 1/3 expected goals. Then New Zealand's snatch against Iran, exposed by Egypt within days. Climbing into earned territory, Cape Verde's 2-2 with Uruguay, real chances and a 32-metre rocket. And crowned at the top, the most legit of all, Australia over Türkiye. A plan, a clean sheet, a result no XG model would call lucky. But do not let the ranking comfort the giants, because here is the part that should terrify them. Even the flukes are a signal, not noise. A coin only lands the right way up when the table is already tilted, and this tournament is tilted toward the underdog. Deeper squads, harsher conditions, wilder games. So the next time a favourite escapes with a draw, do not ask if they got lucky. Ask why the luck keeps finding the same teams. Because a fluke that keeps happening to the same kind of side stops being a fluke. It becomes the future.